it out together. So we're going to discuss again why medical care system is toxic today and where this water fits in, and again, how detoxifying it can pay us money. We went through the disclaimer that this is not medical advice though. So we're on number 1. Drop a 1 in the chat if you're already practicing holistic living. And if you are just beginning your journey and cleaning up the way you take care of yourself, drop a 2 in the chat if you're just embarking on your holistic health journey. And if you're not there yet, but you've heard about holistic therapies and you're interested and curious what exactly it looks like, drop a 3 in the chat for me. And the good news is most holistic healthcare is free. Breath work, spending time in nature, practicing meditation, gratitude, doing grounding, getting sunshine, walking, participating in a community. These things don't actually cost us money, right? But the thing is, they do cost us time, energy, in the form of intention, right? And actual commitment. So these are things that you might not realize it on the surface, but are actually more valuable than the money itself. So doing yoga, prioritizing your sleep, doing a spiritual practice, or doing intermittent fasting, obviously not complaining is a good way to tune up your mindset, and turning off the Wi-Fi at night. So important, right? Especially today. And picking up heavy things, aka lifting weights. You know, obviously the weights will cost a little bit of money, but lifting will get you in shape. You don't even have to go to the gym if, you don't want to. Not drinking, that's one that can save you money. And having a why that's bigger than your excuses, this is one that is so valuable because this can actually make you money. And I believe it's what we're here to do. Now, walking away from your phone, that's something that can really help with all those things and is totally free. Not eating out so much and not buying foods that don't love you back, these can save money. Of course, you have to buy food that is gonna take care of you. So who am I to deliver this message, and what do I know about holistic health? In my circular journey, I've definitely come to embrace the fact that health is wealth, and that wealth is one of our most important and greatest forms of health, because without money, it's really hard to actually take care of yourself or even not stress out and have that factor coming in. So I grew up in Florida, obsessed with the ocean, but my holistic health journey began at about 5 years old. My mom and dad are a nurse and a doctor, and I loved tracing when I wasn't in the ocean. It's hard to get me out, but when you could and dried me off, I was tracing the illustrations in my dad's medical books, and I would hear, some commentary about how drug reps worked on their, relationships and got their feet in the door with people and interesting, unique medical scenarios. But my mom didn't actually go back to work until I was 5, at which point I threw tons of tantrums, Shout out to my mom, though, first of all, for waiting 5 years. I mean, does that even happen these days, that moms spend 5 years raising their babies before they go back to work? Anyway, I wasn't having it. I didn't want her to go back to work ever. So I learned in anger management the power of breath to distance yourself from your emotions. Just inhale and count to 10 and get a bigger perspective on the bigger picture, right? And zoom out, essentially. Then at some point we ended up moving to New York when I was 13, right before high school. And so I was at the epitome of culture shock, from Florida to New York, experiencing what seemed like a lot more faster of a pace. Everybody seemed a lot more concerned with material things and less about each other. So I didn't really make friends right away, and I was spiraling into depression, quite honestly. And I experienced the onset of severe and chronic acne. So at some point along those years, I learned the power. I realized that the sun, having my own self-counsel, and eventually opening up to community really helped alleviate those things for me. And at some point soon after that, we moved to New Jersey. And good thing, because I started working at a health food store, and looking behind me at some of the students that I went to school with in New York, people in my friends group were dropping dead from prescription drug overdoses and things like that. So I was well aware of the big pharma issue here in the United States. But working at the health food store, I dove into the books there on the shelves and learned about plant medicine, learning about living foods, and eating clean. And that's when I dove into the wonderful rabbit hole of big ag, with pesticides, genetic modification, everything that Monsanto, Syngenta, and Bayer are and were doing. And I deepened my yoga practice. Let's see, we've got more people in the waiting room. All right, so I was deepening my yoga practice while learning about plant food and medicine, working on my mindset even more, and practicing other holistic modalities like earthing and sun gazing and grounding and things like that. Before I started moving around a lot more from Florida to Oregon and Northern California. And everywhere I lived, I just wanted to have a garden because I was so obsessed with growing my own food, not letting genetic GMOs get to me or having to buy into the fast-paced food system. It was slow food for me, and I was loving doing it in a no-till type of way, really implementing regenerative practices that my community is so good with. I studied nutrition. I was certified in plant-based nutrition and even Ayurveda. And practiced, helping people as much as I could, but at some point I realized, I was even studying natural law, and at some point I realized that gardening was a labor of love. It's really difficult to have your own practice helping people that really didn't want to be helped at the time, because making those lifestyle changes can be so difficult. And during 2020, I started to go broke and realized that even the raw superfood chocolate truffle business that I had started and, the Bitcoin investing that was doing okay for me, these weren't necessarily sustainable or fulfilling, and they weren't allowing me to live my dreams of, hanging out with dolphins and turtles all day and just being in the ocean. So I started going broke when my mom and dad invited me to move back into this wonderful house now that we share, and living my actual dreams in a place, back in New Jersey where I never thought I could live again. And my journey came full circle to water. I finally realized the importance and impact of water as the basis and the foundation of health. I realized that there are so many ways that you can study health that mostly involve nutrition, on a holistic path, balancing elements and things like that. But the one element that's so overlooked but is so foundational to everything that we do in all walks of life is water. So I'm so grateful that it came full circle. And my goal here today is to leave everybody here with the power to restore balance, homeostasis, health, and vitality to our bodies and the planet. To show everyone, to be able to show that, to make everyone able to show anyone how to prevent, reduce, and detoxify and avoid the root causes of disease. So it's important to go over the root causes of disease, which turns out always stems at dehydration. We just said water is life, right? So these can manifest in different branches of this tree of disease here, but the roots really look like, if you've ever heard of these things, low voltage, which can lead to oxidation, which can lead to acidosis and inflammation. Inflammation is most infamously the root cause of all chronic diseases, or most of them, as far as we've been hearing. Got more people in the waiting room. And it turns out much of it stems from dehydration, oxidation, and low voltage. And they'll cause symptoms to manifest that have us asking questions like, why am I so tired? Why can't I sleep through the night? Why am I always stressed or getting sick? Why is digestion not so easy for me? Or where did this brain fog suddenly come from? You guys noticing the pattern that a lot of these things have to deal with our brains or our stomachs? Sometimes they manifest as allergies, and we might be asking, why are my joints so painful? These are symptoms that modern medicine will often treat at the top of the tree you see here on the right, where the leaves, the fruits essentially, are coming from a root cause that has been happening for maybe many years, maybe for a long time, that's just gone unnoticed or unchecked. And they'll treat it with things like symptom management, quick fixes like pills, surgery, radiation, and chemotherapy. So what's really going on? It's important to understand. Dehydration is just causing a drop in energy production. It's impairing our detoxification pathways because it thickens the blood. So this is slowing cell functioning. Acidosis is creating an environment for disease because it strips minerals from the body. And we'll get into that, but it's just disrupting enzyme function, which enzymes and all metabolic processes in the body require minerals. Even the antioxidants that our own body makes heavily rely on minerals for that production. Chronic inflammation will cause pain. Again, it's the root cause. Tissue damage is the silent driver behind heart disease, cancer, and autoimmune conditions. And oxidative stress is directly linked to that. It's very similar to acidosis, actually. It's where free radicals will damage your DNA and your cells, and this accelerates the aging process, much like inflammation does, and it will contribute to nearly all degenerative diseases. So these are very similar things going on here. And at the root of everything is low voltage. It's reducing the body's ability to heal. You know, we're electromagnetic beings, essentially, and we're all made of water. That's basically charged water, and we need the minerals, of course, for that. But low voltage is going to reduce the body's ability to regenerate our cells, carry out essential electrical signaling between our cells. You know, even our neurons in our brain might be a lot of water up there, but we need electricity to be firing across the synapses and making the actual communication. So water comes in the fact that, you know, we are essentially water beings. There are an estimated 1.2 times 10 to the 27th power molecules in a young adult. That's quadrillions of molecules, right, guys? So it turns out, when scientists counted them out, more than 99 out of every 100 of those molecules in the body are water molecules. So holistically speaking, looking at the whole body, we're mostly water, shaped by frequency and powered by electricity. You can look at our brain and our kidneys. By volume, we're about 83% water. Our lungs about 85%. By volume, our blood is 94% water, and our eyes 95% water, and our hearts and muscles 75%. So there's an amazing story of a physician in Iran named Feridun Batmanglij, otherwise known as Dr. Batman. His name is just a little bit lengthy there. And he was captured in the Iranian Revolution. He was with prisoners who were asking him for help. And when he went to help them, he had no medicine supplies to treat them with. All he could do was give them water. But he noticed that the more water he gave and the more water they consumed, the better they got, which led him to conduct extensive research and eventually get out of prison to publish these books, among many others. Water cures, drugs kill. Your body's many cries for water, and you're not sick, you're thirsty. So he was one of the doctors who actually realized that the root cause of all illness could essentially be dehydration. So what the healthcare? We've got broken food and water systems where GMOs and ultra-processed polluted fake foods are filling the shelves. We've got plastic bottling companies fueling the greatest epidemic we've ever seen with microplastics and forever chemicals. We've got pharmaceutical companies working their for-profit sick care system where repeat customers is the goal, not cures. And the pesticide manufacturers using war chemicals, essentially, to keep the bugs off of our food that we're then supposed to eat. Chemical giants, namely DuPont, using about 80,000 daily poisons that didn't exist more than 100 years ago, but are now on everything that we touch, from our clothing to our waterproof gear to everything, even my wetsuit that I go out in. And radiation on top of that from 5G and Wi-Fi, combined with the blue light that's staring at our screen, is disrupting our precious pineal gland that regulates our sleep cycles. Then we have the toxic beauty industry, where greenwashing is really just the start. You know, that's just the tip of the iceberg with that industry, and the three-letter health agencies spewing misinformation alongside mainstream media to be sure that propaganda is causing more fear, division, and chaos, distracting us from what really matters, while the Federal Reserve gets to hang out in the background, pulling the puppet strings of inflation, taxation, and abusing the power that was essentially stolen from us. So, somewhere along the lines, something happened in history. And this chart is just an index. It's called the Healing Web. It's a beautiful piece of art, but it indexes holistic medicine on the right and pharmaceutical or allopathic care on the left, with all sorts of remedies for the most common illnesses. And you could see at the top right that naturopathy is the root of holistic medicine. And then on the top left, there's a red cross where we see, if we zoom in really closely, something called the Flexner Report of 1910. Now, the Flexner Report was commissioned somewhere along the lines, this is around the industrial era. After the 1800s, Rockefeller, of course we get to talk about John D. Rockefeller, this infamous man who was so wealthy and so successful that he owned the Standard Oil Company and was basically in control of 90% of the oil reserves. So successful and productive that he had this problem of excess petroleum waste that he wasn't sure what to do with at first, but being the cunning businessman that he was, decided that he was going to make money off of it. So he teamed up with Andrew Carnegie and commissioned this man named Abraham Flexner, not a doctor, but an educator, and they commissioned him to go around the country and assess 155 different medical schools and basically raise the standards of medical education in the United States by forming a criteria that schools would need to conform to or else shut down if they wouldn't comply. So, what happened? I'm just gonna forgive me for 1 minute. We've got a dog issue on the prowl. Guys. Pardon the interruption. So, thousands, holistic therapies in use for thousands of years. This is what most medical centers were using. And of course, there were some experimental things. But Rockefeller knew at this time, the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research discovered that they could produce synthetic pharmaceuticals out of petroleum. So what happened? They poured tons of money into all of the hospitals and medical centers that would agree to raise their standards to this criteria put forth by Abraham Flexner in this report. And started funding the implementation and construction of research labs. And this man, Abraham Flexner, he favored the Johns Hopkins University model, which was basically a hospital tied to a university with clinical research and biomedical lab research. It was the perfect breeding ground for pharmaceutical production, surgery centers, all sorts of things that weren't considered holistic. So in this report, Abraham Flexner, classified all of this holistic therapy in use for thousands of years as unscientific quackery. In doing so, he classified everything as unscientific quackery that was in use for thousands of years as holistic. It's now unscientific quackery, and also was having the American Medical Association push his agenda to have medical schools conform or shut down. So over half of the medical schools in America shut down or were merged into these hospitals and universities that would comply and accept this philanthropy from Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie. And so it turns out most of them were women-owned or black-owned, and that was essentially how holistic healthcare got sidelined. Doctors were threatened for speaking out. They would be stripped of their licenses or even jailed for speaking out against what was going on. So that's how we got where we are today. And the turning point for water is detailed in a beautiful article that you can look up called Electrolyzed Water, Its History and Relevance to Modern Health Management. We knew since the 1850s that this technology was useful. A man named Charles Watt discovered that salt water could actually be electrolyzed to create electrolytic sodium hypochlorite, otherwise known as hypochlorous acid. And we're going to talk about that. But electrolyzing this salt water was being used for sewage disinfection and deemed an effective form of sanitation in 1893. It was used for municipal water purification, and even in Scotland helped assist suppressing an outbreak of the bubonic plague, if you can believe that. So they started using it on hospital ships, a French hospital ship specifically, where they were using it as a germicide and a topical disinfectant in surgeries, and a British hospital ship called the HMS Aquitania, funny enough. And hospital surgeons, they were using it for laundry and general cleaning, but in the operating room, surgeons realized that this water was helping their patients' wounds heal faster than the iodine or boric acid that they would sometimes use. So further investigations were done, and they found it effective at suppressing things like E. coli, staph, MRSA, even anthrax. And so in 1915, the British Medical Journal identified and defined this hypochlorous acid as the most effective antiseptic known. So then in 1918, the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research in the US investigated the work of these doctors, Dakin, Carlisle, and Hopkinson, and despite positive data and scientific field testing of this technology by military surgeons in France and Great Britain, the burgeoning field of synthetic pharmaceutical medications was favored by the Western medical establishment. So further development of this technology in the US was relegated to the automotive and space industries. And if you can guess who that is, drop that in the chat. I'd love to see if anyone guesses. Other countries forged ahead with medical applications. And not to keep you waiting, NASA has actually been doing research on molecular hydrogen as a countermeasure for radiation, just to answer my own question there. So even water in the United States became processed. And it's true that well and spring water are not technically processed. However, they are still completely vulnerable to all of the contamination of all the other types of water that are processed, like tap, bottled water, filtered, or even ultra purified, where both the good and the bad has been removed from the water. And we'll get to the good in water. But what else is in our water? So if you want to know what we're showering in and bathing in, using to wash our hands and dishes or do laundry or clean our food or even giving our pets and our plants, brushing our teeth in, God forbid, and cleaning surfaces, you can go to a wonderful consumer database put together by a consumer organization known as the Environmental Working Group, and they go around doing the testing at zip codes and municipalities, at water treatment facilities, and compiling it in a public database that's completely available to us. And I just looked up a town near me, and you can see that a lot of these disinfectant byproducts, mostly here, but even chromium hexavalent, which is an industrial solvent and, a heavy metal, they're in high numbers of times what the Environmental Working Group recommends as a safe amount. And at the bottom right, you can see the ever-increasing amount of forever chemicals that's in my water and many, many water municipalities across the country. It's pretty heavy on the East Coast and even the West Coast too. But what's important to know about this is that our lungs and our skin actually absorb more contaminants during a 10-minute hot shower than our digestive system would for drinking the same amount of water. And that's because the vapors, the hot water obviously will vaporize some of the contaminants, and our pores will open and we can breathe things in through our lungs and drink them in through our skin. So what do most people do? They go to bottled water thinking that it's safe and, at least safer than, what we're showering and bathing in, but the truth is it's highly unregulated, and 64% of bottled water actually is just tap. Meanwhile, it is literally the most commonly sold beverage now in the world because people are realizing we're in a water crisis. It's sold at a 10,000% markup, and all these companies are doing is bottling the water. They're not making the water, right? They're just making these plastic containers that are leaching things like antimony, phthalates, BPAs, and microplastics into the liquid, creating chaos for our hormones. And it turns out that 3 times the volume of water and a liter of gasoline is used to produce each bottle. So every day, 6 million of those plastic water bottles are discarded every single day, all for liquids that are acidic, don't carry voltage and replenish our energy, are deficient in minerals, and likely more toxic than the tap water to begin with. So let's do an imagination exercise for a minute. And just imagine what would happen if 50% of people buying bottled water stopped right now, today, tomorrow, pretty soon. It wouldn't just be the earth that would benefit. Let's think back to the root causes of disease and imagine what would happen if nobody drank bottled water anymore. But then that would lead a lot of people to go and ask, well, what about filtered or reverse osmosis or distilled? And I've been there. I've gone down that route. I had a Berkey. Luckily, I stopped before reverse osmosis. I intuitively felt like it was overkill because minerals are super important, but clean water is foundational. Everybody has a right, and it's true that as much as we might think that medical malpractice or heart disease are the leading causes of death, it might be so in America, but around the world, it's still waterborne illnesses and diseases. So it's important to have clean water, but then it's important to ask, does my water have the proper mineral spectrum? Is it acidic or corrosive to my body? Is it oxidizing our cells? Is it stealing energy with a positive oxidation reduction potential or a positive charge, essentially? And is it useful for more than just drinking, or is it a limited use thing? And is it hydrogen rich? And we're going to get to that. But along the lines, Japan did something very different. In the recovery from World War II, physicians found themselves wrestling with a broken medical infrastructure and shortage of supplies, and decided that they would implement the world's most progressive disease prevention-based healthcare system. And through this healthcare model, began investigating alternative methods of disease prevention and management. So in these investigations, they found that the consumption of electrolyzed reduced water was effective in treating intestinal abnormal fermentation, acid indigestion, chronic diarrhea, chronic constipation, and dyspepsia. Now, I don't know about you, but to me that sounds like they figured out something really wonderful with the stomach. And that clearly is where a lot of these root causes will first manifest as dis-ease or lack of ease. Who hasn't had a stomach ache here or indigestion, right? So if these things go unchecked, they can proceed to form even worse diseases and symptoms down the line that, of course, we have all sorts of other names for, but are not always treated with water. So in 1965, the Japanese Ministry of Labor, Health, and Welfare recognized the consumption of this water as a viable medical treatment method. But they didn't stop there. Of course, they went for the brain too, with forest bathing, and coined the Shinrin Roku practice in the 80s as a part of a national health initiative to combat rising stress and burnout in their country. It's just the practice of mindfully walking and sitting or resting in nature and fully engaging your senses. Now, who here has felt amazing after spending enough time in the forest, right? Would even prescribe it as a treatment method of their own. Japan actually does that. It's an officially recognized as a preventative health measure because the forest is full of negative ions, also known as electrons. So we're literally getting charged by Mother Earth in the most natural of settings and most beautiful of settings possible. It's been scientifically shown to reduce cortisol levels, reduce anxiety and depression, enhance mood and emotional resilience, improve focus and attention, activate parasympathetic state, boost creativity, and improve sleep quality. So Japanese doctors even prescribe forest bathing to patients with anxiety, high blood pressure, depression, or chronic stress. It's pretty cool, right? Let's get a temp check. If you feel like maybe Japan has figured out something wonderful and really taken care of the gut-brain connection in a holistic way, type Japan in the chat. So, what about the rest of the world? Of course, Japan was studying this water, and they were looking at places across the world like Chillicothe, Mexico, Lourdes, France, Delhi, India, Nordenau, Germany, Hunza Valley, Pakistan, and the Himalayas, because out of these places, many of them blue zones, type of blue in the chat too if you're familiar with blue zones and people living to be 100 years old or more. There was water pouring out from deep underground, and people were lining up in droves, claiming that it was curing all sorts of illnesses, and they studied it, right? And so a Romanian scientist was also studying this water at the Hunza site at the time. He spent 60 years studying Hunza water to find out why the people there are free from chronic disease, having babies at up to age 65, and living well into their 120s and 40s. What these scientists discovered in common in all these places was high levels of active or negatively charged hydrogen, microclustered mineral colloids, lower surface tension of the water, higher pH, and a negative net charge, or an ORP, which we'll talk about. So at some point, a research group started making these machines and providing them to hospitals, and that research group formed into this company, Enagic, who came up with the Kangen machine that produces electrolyzed reduced water for homes. It's still a certified medical device by the Japanese Ministry of Labor and Welfare, and it produces 7 different pHs of water that have a variety of voltages and provide us with 100 different daily uses alongside the drinking water. Now, these machines will last more than 35 years with proper care and can save you over their lifetime thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in regular expenses. Not to mention, they qualify for a tax deduction, so that's more savings for you. Now, the term Kangen is just a Japanese word that means return to origins. And the founder of this company, when he started it, said that he wanted to return water back to its living state. So that man over here on the right is Mr. Hironari Oshiro, and we're going to play another game. And that game is just a guessing game. This man has owned this company 51 years, and for that long, it's been debt-free. So we're going to talk about why this is the only company that you want to look at these systems from. But just let's get the game going in the chat. I want to know how young you think this man is. And I'll give you a hint. Obviously, he's been around for at least 50 years. He's 50 years older than I am. So why Enagic? The difference is that this is the gold standard. This is the original and only medical grade ionizer. It has the gold seal from the Water Quality Association, which no other ionizer companies do. So while there might be other cheap brands out there, if you look to the top right, you can see that the kind of technology in their plates just doesn't compare. You have to use metal plates to bring a charge to the water and split the water molecule to do ionization, what we're doing here. But a lot of companies are using cheaper materials, and the difference here is that these plates, and this company, Enagic, actually has the patent on medical grade platinum and titanium, the metals that they use in their plates, which means we're not at risk when we use these machines for these mesh technology, other plates, corroding and leaching heavy metals into our lines. And that's just one of many, many reasons this company is so incredible. They're an original equipment manufacturer, which means that they make and source all their parts in-house. They're not outsourcing anything cheap. They're doing it all themselves. And we're in 28 different countries with 43 regional offices and have served over 3 million people to date. And as the gold standard of water ionizers, it takes 6 months to make each machine by one set of hands before undergoing a 27-point inspection by a quality control specialist, which has led this company to earn some more certifications that no other companies out there have, which are 3 different certifications from the ISO, just the International Standard of Operations for Management, environmental stewardship, and even a certification that planes and satellites require before they take off into the sky. And no other company out there has this. And not all water is created equal. So this water is mineralized. It has high levels of molecular hydrogen, high voltage to replenish our cells. Not to mention, this is done with a power supply that creates a stable amount of ionization so that we're sure that we have a therapeutic amount of molecular hydrogen. This varies with other cheaper models, right? And this is going to make sure that we have the proper amount of hydrogen and voltage in a stable way that actually lasts. And that's the difference and why we get the incredible testimonials that we do in our company, which, matter of fact, I'd like to involve you guys again. If you have a testimony that you've experienced a change in your health or anything in your life, I'd love for you to share that so that our guests can see what's going on when real people actually start drinking this water. With alkaline, neutral, and acidic options, the water is antioxidant, it's anti-inflammation, it's anti-aging, and it produces over 100 uses again so that you can have a non-toxic environment and use this water to cook, clean, detoxify, disinfect, and even take care of your body. So the first property of this water that makes it so incredible is that it's 6 times more hydrating than any other type of water out there, which means it'll enhance the supplement utilization within your body. Does anybody here take supplements? I've never considered myself a supplement person, but I have, from being in organic agriculture and realizing that the topsoil is largely depleted and that most of our food doesn't contain nearly the mineral content that it used to. Take whole foods mineral supplements myself, like shilajit and sea moss, and even herbs like nettle and horsetail to be sure I'm adequately mineralized. But taking it with the wrong water isn't going to help my body any good to absorb these things, right? So it can save you money over time, and it can even improve the effectiveness of other therapeutic practices that you're doing. And of course, when applied with our food, can help waste less nutrition. So that's just one way it'll save money, and this is an example that I love to share. This is my favorite test, and I just have a quick video. We're going to zoom forward so that we don't take too much more time.
How do we normally make tea? We boil the water, correct? Now, the reason we boil the water is because we want to drink hot tea. Second reason is because when you boil the water, you break down the molecules of the water so it can make tea out of tea bag. Now, what are we going to do? I've got here tap water or bottled water, and I have here Kangen water. We're going to make green tea. So this is our tap water. As you can see, you won't have green tea. Now, let's put it to the second glass and use Kangen water. There we go. As you can see, you will have an instant green tea. Now, you may be watching and with a skepticism that the tea bag was wet from first time. Now, we're going to put the same tea bag to the third glass and we're going to use tap water again. As you can see, you will not have green tea because it has a big molecular structure in comparison to Kangen water. Now, we're going to pour Kangen water again to the fourth glass and you will see how Kangen water creates instant green tea. What does it mean is Kangen water hydrates your body at cellular level because it has a tiny molecular structure in comparison to tap or bottled water where it has 15 to 20 molecules per cluster, and Kangen water has only 5 to 6 molecules per cluster, meaning that Kangen water hydrates your body 6 times better than tap or bottled water. Now, if you pay attention to these two glasses, I'm going to show you. Imagine I'm going to put few drops to each glass. Imagine every single drop represents your vitamins, supplements, all the proteins that you consume on a day-to-day basis to stay healthy. Imagine you consume them with the tap or bottled water. What happens is it dilutes. You're just wasting your investment. Now, if you consume them with the right water, this is what happens. You can also relate it to the cooking. Now, imagine you cook or you consume your vitamin supplements with the right water. As you can see, it takes out all the nutrients from your supplements, vitamins, and gives to your body. That's how you benefit and get the worth of your investment. So at the end of the day, it's not about how much water you drink, it's about the quality of the water you drink. Stay hydrated.
Ooh.
At cellular level, drink Kangen water. Thank you.
How about that? Is that cool or what? If you guys like that test, drop a T in the chat. Whoops. So, the next property is hydrogen, H2. It is the smallest molecule in the universe, and its unique property is being a selective antioxidant that neutralizes only the most harmful free radicals in our body, which is why there's so much research pouring out on PubMed these days, even calling this possibly the God molecule. So molecular hydrogen is special because while most antioxidants will neutralize all free radicals, it's just going to target the most harmful one, the OH or the hydroxyl anion, and it's going to leave behind the free radicals. There are actually free radicals in our body that are essential to cell signaling and immune function. Now, secondary antioxidants like from food, they'll just go and knock them all out, which, might not be the greatest thing and it might not be as effective. So hydrogen acts as kind of an adaptogenic sort of antioxidant. It's amazing because it combats oxidation and is anti-inflammatory, but it's also neuroprotective. It protects against metabolic conditions by actually upregulating our protective genes in our own body. It boosts our mitochondria and protects against DNA damage. It supports the body's antioxidant system, and that's one of my favorite things because I've listened to or read about a study that doctors have done where they actually took live volunteers drinking this water and found that they had higher production and activity of their body's own antioxidants. And that's super cool because the liver, the antioxidants produced by the body in our liver, things like glutathione, superoxide dismutase, and catalase, these antioxidants are super antioxidants, right? The master antioxidants, they will neutralize millions of free radicals to one molecule, whereas secondary antioxidants are a 1-to-1 ratio. And the other thing is that these secondary antioxidants will typically leave behind a waste product that our cells will need to then detoxify. Hydrogen, being H2 and neutralizing the anion, the hydroxyl anion, is making water in our body, guys. So it's getting rid of and neutralizing the harmful free radicals and then hydrating our bodies. It's so cool. It can help reduce pain, protect your muscles, speed up sports-related recovery, and calm allergic reactions even. And of course, will promote longevity. And that little picture at the bottom is to just give you an example of when an antioxidant comes in, what's actually going on. And if you just want to go back to high school chemistry for a second and remember the redox, the oxidation reduction reaction that we studied, where the outer shell of an atom has electrons, and if there's one that's unpaired, it's unstable. That's a free radical. So what an antioxidant is doing is having an abundance of electrons, it donates one to that free radical. So it's no longer toxic and harmful to our body. And these are coming from drugs and antibiotics, household chemicals, which I talk about a lot if you follow me in my social media, pollution, cigarette smoke, alcohol, processed food, stress, exercise, excessive exercise, lack of sleep, even viruses, bacteria, mold, other toxins, EMF and radiation, even UV rays are doing to our bodies basically what you're seeing on the right, where the apple is withering due to oxidation. And again, it's onset by dehydration, because hydration can actually protect us from all of these things. So if you're going to go off and do your own research, it's important to know that Kangen water is a trademark term, and what you're really looking for is electrolyzed reduced water or molecular hydrogen water. These are the scientific names for these things. And so, of course, if you go to Google and just type in whatever, you're going to get what you're looking for, right? Has anybody noticed that Google will pretty much tell you what it thinks you want to know? So what we recommend to our people who are doing their research is going to Google Scholar or PubMed and typing in, I'm not going to read through all of these amazing effects that thousands of peer-reviewed studies have shown hydrogen to exhibit, but you can take a screenshot here if you'd like, and then go to Google Scholar or PubMed and type in electrolyzed reduced water or molecular hydrogen water with one of these key situations or conditions and see what you get. Right? And the other thing you can do is go look at the Molecular Hydrogen Institute at molecularhydrogeninstitute.org, and they've already got thousands of peer-reviewed studies compiled for you and amazing reports into how this hydrogen, this amazing molecule, affects each system in the body. But the important thing for us to know is that healing is voltage. There's an amazing physician who did a bunch of LASIK surgeries named Jerry Tennant, and in cutting people's eyes open, experienced brain encephalopathy, which is just a swelling of the brain induced by inhaling a bunch of viruses and particles that were floating up off of people's eyeballs that they didn't realize his surgical mask wasn't protecting him for. And, you know, Western medicine told him there's really nothing we can do for you. You're going to have to retire. And so he threw himself into research and found that most human cells operate best in a pH range of between 7.35 and 7.4. Sounds familiar, right? But what he found out is that this can also be translated to a voltage range of -20 to -25 millivolts, given, give or take with certain conditions that we'll get to. So he realized that when we need to make new cells, the body requires -50 millivolts. And chronic disease will occur if our voltage drops below 20 in general, or you cannot achieve that -50 millivolts needed to make a new cell. And so here are some ways on the left that we're lowering our voltage in our body, and it's with fluoride in the water or dental work, chlorine in our water, still water even like a bath, EMFs, of course, with microwaves, computers, and phones. Cooked food actually also has positive voltage. A lack of minerals, trauma or negative emotions, and acidic water, including tap, filtered, bottled, reverse osmosis, and spring waters. And the ways to raise voltage are with whole, unprocessed, chemical-free food, specifically raw and living organic foods, exercising, contracting our muscles, getting our feet in the dirt or the ocean, absorbing sunshine, standing in running water, mineral supplementation, and ionized, alkalized, hydrogen-rich, reduced water, meaning the voltage has been reduced. So when we look at the pH scale, you can see that homeostasis is indeed just slightly above the middle, neutral. And it's on the side where if you increase the voltage, you're getting faster recovery times. But if you decrease the voltage, you're getting a dead battery, basically. Slow recovery, low voltage, low energy. And there was an experiment done by Dr. Keith Brewer, where he dropped the voltage of normal cells in a petri dish from negative 20 all the way up to 30. I say up because it's going more positive, to 30 millivolts, and the cells became malignant or cancerous. And when he added voltage back to the cells and brought it to negative 65 millivolts, all the cancer cells died. How cool is that? I think that's amazing. But what happens is when our bodies our bodies combat acidic imbalances, and we have, acidity in the body. Our bodies will use buffers to combat this. And what are buffers? Say this with me, guys. Minerals. Buffers are minerals. So on the left, what's going on with that experiment was an electrochemical alkalinity, or an increase in voltage. But on the right, you'll see a classic example of what bottle companies do to cash in on this trend where everybody's figuring out that disease doesn't really thrive in an acidic environment. Let's alkalize ourselves. And so they add a strong buffer known as baking soda and other chemical salts that are the reason that science has found alkaline water to actually be dangerous to our health, because a strong buffer in the stomach can actually disrupt the stomach acid because it's not done with an electrochemical change. We've added chemicals now that our stomach needs to fight and our kidneys need to filter out. So it's not natural. Whereas water that's naturally alkalized has a negative oxidation reduction potential, or ORP, otherwise known as the potential to reduce oxidation. And so a negative number is going to be charging our cells, giving us antioxidant properties, and a positive number is going to be oxidizing our cells instead of reducing them. And this is just measured with a chemist tool, like the one you see in the upper right-hand corner, the ORP meter. And you can buy these on Amazon. If you get with whoever invited you here, they can help you find a pretty affordable one. You don't have to spend more than $40 on one of these things. And you can go around and test people's soda and their sports drinks and tap water to find that it has a positive, usually around 400 charge, which means it's super oxidizing to the body. But even purified, reverse osmosis, or distilled water has between 200 and 300 as a positive charge. So vitamin C, like orange juice and green tea, are actually going to have a negative charge. They're some of the only substances that we found do. But Kangen water itself is having a negative charge, a negative ORP reading of between negative 400 and sometimes even negative 800 right out of the machine. And you can see when you compare it to other types of water, the other types of drinks, even sodas available, that while the pH may widely vary, the ORP will be a great indicator that there are substances in there that are still oxidizing to our body. So none of these substances, you can see, have a negative ORP, however safe their pH might seem. Essentia is a great example, which is what we just talked about. The other thing is that none of these waters contain this molecular hydrogen. That's completely covered by Kangen water, including another 99 plus uses, whereas all the other types of water you can get, they only serve one use, if that at best, right? It's a little bit questionable now. It makes you think, was the water I'm drinking actually healthy for me? We've even compared it to distilled, reverse osmosis, spring, and purified water, and you can see the pH values might even look safer, somewhere around neutral, but still have an oxidizing effect on our cells. Whereas Kangen water, we've got that negative 650, around negative 650 millivolts for 9.5 pH water. And again, none of these other waters have hydrogen or any other uses than drinking. Maybe washing your hands if you want to wash in reverse osmosis. So this is a holistic health system and the ultimate healthcare product, an earth-friendly technology that's redirecting money from toxic companies to real people just like you and me. It's destined in this way to become a household appliance, the common household appliance in this decade, as it's one machine with 7 different settings. And they're amazing. This is just a snapshot of what's possible with things like the strong alkaline water. This is the highest pH at 11.5. It's so alkaline that it is capable of emulsifying oils. So you can use it for degreasing your oven and your stovetops and cleaning oily messes and stains. An emulsifier for salad dressings, and it can even replace Epsom salt. And my favorite use, if you follow me on social media, you've probably seen me stripping the oil-based pesticides right off my food. It's another one of our favorite tests because you get that neon green radioactive looking water and you just can't help but, share about what people are eating on the daily basis that you don't actually have to eat. Well, then there's the drinking waters between 8.5, 9, and 9.5, which can be used for hydration, detoxification, and amazing food and drink prep. The neutral, we do actually have a neutral setting that you can use for baby formula or slow-release prescription medications that you don't want to absorb immediately. And the beauty water, one of my favorites, it is matching between 4 and 6 pH, matches the skin's acid mantle layer. That pH is slightly acidic as well, so it's useful as a skin toner and even helpful for treating skin conditions like eczema and psoriasis. And it's a great face wash and even a hair rinse. But it also matches the pH of rainwater. So plants love this stuff. They completely thrive when you pour 6.0, or we call it beauty water, onto your plants, and they become beautiful. But it's great also as a non-streak, a streak-free Windex or floor polish or stainless steel polish replacer. Our cats actually love it because they prefer a slightly acidic pH, and it's amazing for preserving food because it can stop freezer burn. And even if you use a dehydrator, which I do, you can spray your food and prevent the enzymes on the edges from degrading or discoloring like they sometimes do when they get dry, and just preserving the nutrition in general. And then the all-star, the strong acid water. Now, there are companies that make machines specifically devoted to making hypochlorous acid. They're called hypochlorous acid generators, and they go for between $3,000 to $4,000, but you're just getting hypochlorous acid. And why is this so popular? It's because hypochlorous acid is a non-toxic form. It's the active ingredient in bleach. Our cells actually make it to fight infection. So with this machine, you have a water that can be used as a disinfectant or sterilizer and replace your hand sanitizer, your mouthwash, your deodorant, even anti-nausea aids, and honestly, so many more things, you guys, but we'd be here all day. If you'd like, we have a list of the 100+ uses that we can share with you at any time, but here's just some of the things that people have done, including keeping bugs off of their garden and not ever having to buy laundry detergent again. So it's amazing, If you have any more testimonies that you'd love to share, including, being a more sustainable, non-toxic home, this is a great time to share that too. But unfortunately, we've noticed that people don't really recognize that a one-time investment now will save money and deliver huge returns over a lifetime, including inevitable health expenses. And although that's some of our major reasons, people are honestly more interested in having more money and more time. So we love to share about this business opportunity because over 60,000 people a day are searching for how to make money online. And the fact of the matter is, the thing that gives them the time to make the money is our health, right? Because how many people can just go to work when they're sick or feel like, they're under the weather, but they can make money anyways? It's amazing. We cover all of these bases with this home-based business. And what's so special about it is being a high-ticket item that's poised in its market as, it's the thing. It's the gold standard. So with low ticket, you're usually selling products like protein shakes and drink mixes, maybe some other things nowadays, and you're usually making between $20 to $200 per each sale. With high ticket, especially these products, you're making between $351 and over $8,000 on a single package. And with both options, you could be working a couple hours a day to build your business, talking to people who are interested and posting on social media or doing live events and sharing these products. But with low ticket, you're going to have to talk to thousands of people and make 200 sales each month just to make a $10,000 month. You can do that with high ticket in this business by closing 2 to 3 sales a month, which can easily make you 6-figure years. And with that, it makes it possible to actually run profitable Instagram and Facebook ads to even scale your business, which is why you see so many people becoming so wildly successful seemingly overnight in this business. You don't really see people in low ticket running paid ads, right? So I like to say bigger checks, deeper breaths. And that's what it looks like for some people in our community who are directly, these are people that I work with every day, pulling in four-figure months, like my dear friend Destiny Parada, who cashed in $2,100 after 4 days off, celebrating her daughter's birthday, surfing and hanging out with friends. She said, this came in the last 4 days, and it would have taken me over a month of exhausting work to earn in the past. Beyond grateful for what happens on the other side of what if. And the founder of this amazing community had an $11,000 Sunday deposit, and she said, to think I just wanted this water. And, 5 years later, she's having a casual $11,000 Sunday deposit. Much like Miss Ashley Suzanne DeMarco, the queen of in-person live events. And if you want to know what this looks like belly to belly, this is the woman that you will follow and learn from. All of these people here, I've put their Instagram handles so that you can follow and watch and see what's possible for you and absorb their belief in what can actually happen on the other side of what if. She said, this would have taken me 6 months of working part-time as an English teacher, and it represents many lives changed, including my family. And one of my personal favorites is Miss Steph Corey. It's one of my closest friends. It's amazing to see a single mom pulling in almost $8,000, which, she's had higher months than this now. So you might ask yourself, how is this all possible? And it's with a business like this, the ROI, the return on investment, is limitless. It's in a market that is projected to more than double in the next 10 years. We're at $3.5 billion in the market size this year, and projected to be almost $8 billion in 2034. So if you know 5 to 10 people just like we did who would be interested potentially in drinking the best water on the planet, all you have to do is refer 5 to 10 people, and your system, your investment is basically free. And from then on, you're earning high-ticket income from direct or indirect sales. And more than likely, these referrals are interested in the business too. And so you're going to be making high-ticket commissions just as if you were selling these systems yourself every time they do too. And that's where the leverage kicks in. Not only that, you can take advantage of writing off not just your investment for this system, it is a tax deduction, but then you have a home-based business and everything, including your home mortgage or rent, your car bills, utility bills, your cell phone bills, these all become tax deductions or write-offs, guys. And you talk to your CPA about that, of course, and they'll help you out. So most people end up making their money back in only 6 to 12 months just by referring others. And our community specializes in showing you how, and if you really want to take it seriously and scale your business to 6 and 7 figures, we bring you into our training platform and show you step by step exactly how that's done. And number one recommendation is a business forward package like this. This is 4 products so that you not only have this medical grade ionizer for life for your use, you have our state-of-the-art shower filtration remineralization system. Not only protects our largest organ from these nasty chemicals and absorbing them in, it creates a Japanese hot spring experience with hot spring stones from Japan that actually mineralize your water. It's incredible. And and then you'll have our Ukon, the organic wild turmeric supplements or soap or tea or capsules from this company are out of this world, like the most potent turmeric on the planet, because Ukon is just a word for wild turmeric, and our company grows, harvests, and processes this turmeric in the Kangen water, grown on volcanic Okinawan soil, right on the birthplace of Mr. Oshiro himself. Oh yeah, who by the way is 84. I don't know if I said that. And I've seen him jumping around on stage, doing high kicks, playing his native instruments, and just screaming at the top of his lungs about how amazing this water is and how amazing we all are to be sharing his vision and sharing it with him. I gotta tell you, it could bring me to tears if I go on about it, because it's one of my favorite things to see this full-headed hair on this man who's so animated and full of life, just totally unhindered by age, alongside his beautiful wife, who also has a beautiful head of hair too. So when you get these 3 products, then the quad package, and type a quad if you have a quad package and you're using Loner Magic, because this extra machine that you see here on the right is to be used as a loaner machine, where you're put in gyms, cafes, or yoga studios. And that's not only securing a sale so that when the business owner experiences this water, is committed to having it for themselves, because they realize that there is no other other water anymore. You're also exposing all of their clients to this water and getting in their bodies ideally too. So it makes it almost inevitable to make 12 sales by loaning it for 30 days or a month long trial period, and then moving it to the next spot and the next spot and the next spot, which you have time to get ready for while you're doing that, which can make you between $10,000 and $16,000 right now in your first year just on your loaner machine. And that's not even factoring in the tax write-off or the other stuff you're going to be doing at in-person events or online, however you want to share this water. Because then remember, you have this machine at home, you have unlimited free samples to get in bodies around you, your neighbors, anyone you talk to. And then by buying these products from yourself, which we show you how to do, you'll immediately be getting $1,569 back in commissions from your first sales to yourself. Whether you've done this by borrowing the money or otherwise, you're getting commissions back instantly from this company. So right now, this month, today and tomorrow are the last 2 days to take advantage of our 3A fast track campaign, where purchasing a product, a package like this brings you right to 3A, a rank that we're going to talk about, but it took me 3 months to get to, because you have to make typically 11 sales, at least in your group or organization. They don't necessarily have to be direct. That's another amazing thing about this business, is that your group sales count towards your total sales volume, but it usually takes 11 to get there. But with this campaign, you can out the gate buy a quad, buy 3 products from yourself, or, if you don't feel like going, all the way in like that, sell 2 products in your first week, and then sell a 3rd product in your second week, and you've tripled your commissions out the gate. And this is what the commissions actually look like. So typically you sell the way you buy, right? If you've ever, had trouble buying something, and then you go and you're in sales and you are having trouble selling something, if you think back to what your excuse was for not buying that thing that you really, really wanted, it usually reflects in the excuses that other people will give you for not buying what they want from you. Something that I recently realized, and was just so revelatory for me in my business. But when you sell quads, if you've bought a quad, or whether you bought a quad or not, and you've taken advantage of this fast track campaign right now, you're in 3A making over $3,000 per quad sale. And that's why this business has such leverage, because then it doesn't take you too long. We show you how to hack the compensation plan at 4A in a way that you're making 6 points, which is over $6,300 per quad sale. And the compensation works, it's a patented 8-point system where it's basically like a pie, and there are 8 pieces dished out every time a sale is made, right? So we also teach you ways that you will eventually earn 7 and all 8 points. Now, say you are selling trifectas, 3 products at a time, you can be making $4,000 at the top rank of this company. All 8 points is going to be $5,000 per trifecta sale. But if you just buy a quad, even if you wait till after this promotion is over, you're still earning more than $1,000, $1,412. Because if you buy a quad, you fill your 1A lane. You can see there at the top that it takes 1 to 2 sales, and then you promote to 2A. That's what happens when you buy a quad, is you typically double your commissions. But here, with this campaign that's happening for the last 2 days of October, you're tripling your commissions in 3A, so that even if you're just selling K8s, you're making over $1,000 per sale. So if you're still here, type a locked in, because you have locked yourself in for the win. I want to thank you so much, and I know we've gone a little bit over. So the reason I'm here still talking about the math is because our brains want to keep us safe. They want to protect us from change because it's risky, right? It's a primal thing that our brain does, even though we might know that we feel something, we're excited about something, and we want to change our situation. It's not necessarily a safe thing to do. So I just want to talk to your brain, if you're still here right now, and show you all of the cost savings that a Molnar family has by having one of these systems in their home and not having to buy healthcare, first aid, and grooming and toiletry and cleaning products, food and drinks products, and even pet care products anymore. They're saving about $3,000 every year by using water instead. And this water, of course, right? So this is what the package looks like when you're taking advantage of a campaign like this. And we're looking at expenses versus investments. So expenses all the way on the right are draining maybe $3,000 a month if you've got 2 adults, a child, and maybe a few pets. Over a 30-year lifespan of this machine, this can add up to over $100,000. So this would be what you're saving, not to mention the tax write-off that you're pocketing, not to mention the $1,569 that you would be getting in your first commissions. But then from there, it's all bonus and gravy because you're earning between $1,053 and $3,171 on every sale you make in the future. And to just go a little bit further, if you're still buying bottled water, you're spending between $90 and $300 a month, whether it's Poland Springs, Essentia, Fiji, or all the way up to the Mountain Valley. And that'll add up to about $1,000 or between $1,000 and almost $4,000 annually. So that's about a system there, or at least the down payment for it. And over 25 years, a very conservative estimate for the lifespan of these machines, you're spending between $25,000 and almost $100,000 on water that's not serving you and that you're just renting and don't own anyways. And so when you own it with a machine and a system like this, you're spending just over $9,000 with $155 annual costs for changing the filter and proper maintenance of the machine. So if you're looking for a way to invest, if you feel like this is something that you know is for you, let's talk about, not everybody has the money to pay in full. Most of us don't. And so we use the OPM strategy. We'll either split. If you do have the money laying around, great. You can split it up on 2 different credit cards, I mean, not that credit card money is necessarily yours right away, but if you're able to put it on 2 different credit cards, we have a dual credit card option. You can alternatively use in-house financing, depending on, getting that approved with whoever invited you here or your distributor. And depending on your zip code, put between $900 and $1,500 down. And that can help you delay your first monthly payments to start 45 days out. And there's no interest on those payments, but there are finance fees from the company, which is one of the main reasons we love to just help people apply for a zero down third-party credit card with their credit score ideally being above 650. You can get a zero interest credit card and just make easy monthly payments while you're earning, while you learn with our training platform, and building a business that is unlimited. There's no cap on how much you can make and how much you can grow. But if that's not possible, there are other options like an HSA or an FSA. So a health savings account can provide full or partial coverage for a machine with the approval of a doctor. You would just need to get a letter of medical necessity. Or if you do have a great credit score above 700, we can help you, connect you with our funding partners that love to help people get business forward packages with 0% interest rates for up to 18 months. And if not, you can go to your local bank or credit union and ask for a personal loan. So I want to thank you so much and keep the circle of compassion growing and get back to all the winners here. If you are still here and you are a guest, type locked in for the chat or in the chat, and actually, you know what? Type Ukon because you have won yourself the wild turmeric that we talked about that was grown on volcanic soil in Okinawa. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And if you have, if you're a guest, shout out to whoever invited you. Shout out to, here's what we're going to do actually. I'm going to make sure that you can claim your Ukon. And let's see, I want to see who we have in here still. All right, let's see. I'm just going to put my email in the chat, and if you can email this address with your name, the person who invited you, and I'm going to put that all in here, and just send me your address. Your name, who invited you, and I want to know your choice of tea, soap, or capsules, and then your address. And congratulations. And I want to encourage you to keep the circle of compassion growing, get back to whoever invited you here, and I hope to see you guys all on the inside of our incredible community. Thank you so much again, you